Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Soul Purpose Leaders. Today, I've got an amazing leader for you, and I cannot wait to share with you because she is an amazing person. But first of all, we need to ask ourselves, why are we here? Why are you listening to this video? Why are you even wanting to know more? Now, this is a place that I showcase all these leaders that are making a difference in themselves, but also in other people. And this is the moment that a lot of people are going through difficulties. They're suffering. They're doing, or they're having something inside of them telling them, I want to be better. I want to know more. And I don't know how maybe, or I don't feel how to do it or where to go or who to talk to. Now, I make it easy for you. And this is why we're here, because all these leaders, they're all specialized in different areas. And you can actually choose who you want to work with. You can actually choose to connect with. And you can actually choose who you actually see yourself with, that you can, it just like drones you closer to them. And that's the fun thing about this. Now, today, I have an amazing guest. Her name is Kate. And Kate left school in pursuit of a FD in fine art while working as a substance misuse worker for 13 and 19 years old at a national charity. She absolutely loved her job and the sector, pursuing further 4 years in similar roles before making the leap to university. She enjoyed 5 years in social policy department at the University of York, studying applied social science and social policy. They were various areas that she worked in still within the nonprofit sector, from youth work to sexual health services. Before moving on to the social policy again at the University of York, it was here she developed her flair of research and, in particular, social research. After finishing her studies, she rejoined work in the nonprofit sector, and within 3 years of leaving postgraduate education, came to manage regional nonprofit. Her job was centered around project development and planning provision for youth and community organization. Here, she came into her own, developing a strong sense of strategic planning and, in particular, using visual tools and processes for, for strategic planning. She's dyslexic. At, at this time, found the confidence to step outside of the spreadsheet realm and bring strategic planning to the masses through more accessible formats. With a personal interest in design, which she had retained from her FD in fine art, she began on the path to self-employment, looking at brand development for nonprofit organization. This eventually led into her work as a consultant and how this range of services came to be. Currently offered support to help nonprofits plan for their future, appeal to her audience, and value meaningful leads overreach, plus a range of tailored services that meet the specific needs of individual organization. She is an amazing woman, and I love this, what she's doing, and I cannot wait for you to hear from herself. Kate, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Barke. Yeah, it's lovely. It's lovely to be talking with you.
It's an honor and it's a pleasure to actually have you here with us. Now, you've been doing a lot of things going in your life, but tell us when it all started. What age were you when you actually say to yourself, I'm going to work, I'm going to do something different, or I'm going to make a difference in the world? What age were you?
So I suppose it was actually when I first came out of school. So quite early on, I sort of had an idea of what I wanted to do. I went into volunteering, so that's how I got into the non-profit sector. Just as a volunteer, so I was working in the hospitality sector actually for paid work. In a pub of all places, well, pub restaurant type place, and volunteering in my spare time. And enjoyed it so much that I spent about a year doing that, and it was through the volunteering that I was passed sort of I was passed opportunities and application forms to fill out and things like this. So so from there, I had my first job in as a youth participation worker, and within the substance misuse services, and stayed working with charities throughout. I haven't moved.
So what did it make you or attract you to charity work?
Yeah, I think from the start, I realised that you get a lot back, and whether you're being paid or you're volunteering, there is a lot that you get out of it, for the way that you feel and through your personal development and different things like this. But I suppose particularly working for charities and working with children, young people and families, you have such an impact, you really do. And when you're working with children, you just see this a real development. So such progress from when you start working with a child or young person to when they leave the services is remarkable, how much progress they do make. So partly that, on a selfish sort of level, it's seeing how much impact you have on a person's life and what you get from doing that. And then I suppose a lot of it is just even the people that work in charities and non-profit organisations and things like this, from the volunteers to the staff, are great people. They tend to be, really close-knit teams, and you get to know your workmates and form these strong relationships that you have that go on for years and things. I've just had really great experiences, to be honest. So there's not one thing I could pinpoint, but lots of different things that have just made it the best place to work for me.
And have you always been working for non-profit, or have you done it as well with profits for the charities?
So I set out to help non-profits, and that is what I'm sort of seeking to do. That being said, I have had a few businesses approach me, and I tend to be quite choosy about who I work with, and I hope that people would do the same and be quite choosy about who they work with. But I'm willing to make exceptions if it's sort of a charitable business, or if their values are in line with my values, and I feel like we would be a good fit. I don't like to take on jobs where I feel I'm not really going to have that much impact, or where people think they just want a transaction, so they want me to go away, do the work and pass it back. And a lot of people do that, and that's fine. But what I want to do is work alongside people within the non-profit sector and really make some lasting changes within the organisation, so that in the future they've got the skills that they need to do these things without having somebody come in from outside. So I've got these few things that I'm really serious on. Like I said, it's got to be a sort of collaboration, but I'm not as bothered whether they're a business or a non-profit, as long as they see themselves as sort of a charitable business, or whether their values are actually in line with the values of the non-profit sector anyway. They're the most important things for me.
That's really amazing, because people sometimes they don't understand when you say like, oh, I'm choosing because of this. Now, until they hear you actually explaining why you're doing, you know what I mean? Because at the beginning, when someone can just hear, oh no, she doesn't do with those people, she doesn't do with this organization, but they don't understand why. And thank you for sharing that, the insight of why you're doing what you're doing. And now, you actually been doing this for years, yes? But when you started as you just volunteering, but then you went back to school? What was that way of thought that you thought to yourself, you know what, I need something extra, or I want to learn, I want to expand, or I want to grow? What came to you? Because you could have stayed where you were, but you didn't. So tell us a bit on that time when, before the idea for you, or the courage that you built for yourself and actually gone further. Tell us that time when you're going through and seeing and you're volunteering.
Yeah, so I always enjoyed, it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but I always enjoyed learning, in terms of, I'm the sort of person that was looking for courses to go on, and I know it's quite nice to go on a course, so you quite often get fed and things like this, but I just like the whole process, not just the day off work and the food. So all I'd done up to that was, I mean, an FD is a foundation degree, so it is a type of degree, but it's below undergraduate level, and it was in a college setting. So it wasn't like a university experience. It was more similar to college than university. So though I enjoyed it, it wasn't really much different to what I'd done when I was doing my A levels and what I've done previously. I suppose when I was working, it got to a point where I came into my job in around the when Tony Blair was president, which goes back a while, and there were tons of jobs, like New Labour. There were lots of jobs, not just generally, but particularly in youth and community work. So there was a lot of money put into community services, basically. As that period came to an end, they started to draw back on some of the services. So I noticed that there was a real difference in the amount of jobs that there were previously and at this point. With charity jobs and contracts, they tend to only run over the course of a year, or if you're lucky, sort of 3 years, but they don't really run any longer. So you are sort of looking for jobs quite regularly. It got to this point where my contract was coming to an end and I was looking for another job, and there just weren't the jobs out there. And obviously when there's not as many jobs, it gets more competitive and things like this. So I think I really felt that where I was with my foundation degree and my, a few years experience and everything was a little bit limiting. And so I either sort of stick where I am, settle for a little less than I'm currently working for. And I suppose I've always been quite an ambitious person. So I didn't really want to stick exactly where I was, move sideways. And I definitely didn't want to go backwards. So I saw that as the only real possibility. Everybody else had a degree. So I needed to, if I wanted to compete with that, I needed to go and get myself a degree. So that's what I set out to do. And also, I suppose, because the foundation degree in fine art, though I enjoyed art in the past, wasn't the area that I was working in. So it was quite irrelevant, really. Didn't do me anything, apart from saying I had some creativity skills and I can do some arts and crafts and things, but no, it was no good. So I felt that I really had to make that jump. Yeah, I mean, the other thing is that I was looking for something that, again, it links into having a foundation degree in fine art, but something that was a bit more wide ranging, so that if you're in a competitive job market, or things change further, that there would then be more possibilities than, say, youth work, children, young people and families, and you could possibly move into other areas then. So yeah, I sort of felt forced to be honest, by the climate.
I feel that at the moment, that is happening a lot. A lot of people, because like you said before, when Tony Blair was the prime minister, there was a lot of jobs. It was easy, I would say. It was really calm. Everything was cheaper before the economy goes down. It was amazing. You know what I mean? We were having fun. And then after 10 years of Tony Blair gone, the economy clashes and everything just went ugh. And now it's so hard because it's kind of made us feel that, okay, you have to work harder now. You have to make sure that, you know what I mean, to pay your bills, or even the way the society just makes you want to grow, because if you don't, you're going to be left behind. Now, what would you share, like tell us to someone who's going through right now, having a hard time, and might be feeling maybe they're mature, you know what I mean, they're grown up, and they're just like, I haven't studied for years, or I haven't even thought of, you know what I mean, but I don't like where I am because there's no growth, and I don't get the same money because I have to either go down, or you know what I mean, pick a job that I don't like. So what would you share your wisdom to them?
Yeah, I would say that I was in the same position. I'd been working, and I'd been away from any sort of educational setting. College and was the last place I was um, for a good few years. So I considered myself as a sort of, I mean, I wasn't too old, but I was in my mid-20s, so I considered myself as an adult, not as a person that was coming straight out of school. And I did definitely experience those anxieties and things, and I was very concerned about going back into a classroom full of younger, kids. Really, that's what I felt like. Um, when I got there, I had a few things to overcome as well. So, for instance, you don't have very much in common with a lot of the people there who, you know, fairly are more interested in their friends and doing things and their social life and everything else. And I felt like I didn't have a very strong connection with many, and actually for a good few weeks I didn't really speak to anyone. Well, I spoke to a few people, but not that I felt that I had a connection to speak to them again. I didn't really feel it was worth pursuing those sorts of relationships. Anyway, I persevered, and what I did find was I came across a few sort of like-minded people, really driven young people. So they had come straight from college, but they were really interested in doing well. And I made one I still speak to now, actually, made some really good friendships there. So the group of people I was talking to wasn't massive. I had two what I would consider friends that I'd made from university. But what I would say to people who are thinking about whether they make that decision is that I am so glad I did, and I'm so glad that I did at the point that I did, because I came out of my undergraduate degree with a first, and there is absolutely no chance that I would have got a first if I had come straight through school and college and to university. No way. I think that my life skills really helped. So having an understanding of what it's like to have a family, to sort of like work professionally and things like that, particularly working, because it was an applied course that I did. And if you do have a bit of experience in the sector, an applied course is great because you're basing what you're learning on working. So a lot of people are doing their work experience and picking it bits up as they go to write their essays on. But if you've got a few years work, then you're already way ahead of anybody else in the class. So it's easy to get sort of bogged down with all these stresses and anxieties and think, oh, I'm going to be, I'm too old, and I'm not used to learning, and I'm not used to writing. And there are many skills that you have that are going to benefit you much more than coming straight through the route of education. So I would definitely say best decision I ever made.
Amazing. Thank you, Kate. And for everybody at home, yes, this is it. It's time for you to grow, but also, yes, it might be fear that you might see, but end of the day, a lot of people would say, walk with that fear and just tell it, you know what, you're going to do it anyway, and we're going to be okay, end of the day. So, Kate, I want to say thank you because this is amazing. Now, let's go back to after you already finish your education, you got your degree now. what is the first thing you wanted to do so badly?
So this is an interesting one, actually. So I was really keen to get back into work. I was hoping that, you know, newfound degree and things, and I could go straight back into the same sort of area I was working in previously, and maybe a sort of level up. If not, I definitely wasn't going to be going down. I felt, when I had a look at the jobs, there weren't really any changes. I mean, it's only 3 years, so it's not a really long time. And I had this, well, I suppose I had this decision to just, I applied for a few, but to keep applying and persevere. But what I felt at that time, and what I felt was right for me, was, because I'd enjoyed my recent time studying so much, that I would also apply to stay on at university and do a master's. So that's what I ended up doing, and it gave me another year, and I prepared myself better for leaving that year. So I already had an idea of what the job market was looking like and things like this. And I think when I'd first left my undergraduate, I wasn't very well prepared for the possibility that there might not be any jobs and things like this. I did have an idea of what I wanted to do, but after I'd done my master's, I had a backup plan. So I didn't want to just keep myself in education for the rest of time until there was a brilliant job market again. And but I didn't want to keep applying for jobs and have the rejection, or have to take a pay cut. So what I did was I started to build my own non-profit organisation. So I thought I'd love to do it anyway, and I've had these ideas of how you could improve on different areas that I've worked in before. I saw as the perfect time, because I had my undergraduate degree, I had my master's degree, and I felt like having founded a non-profit organisation is only going to add to what you can bring to an organisation. So it was partly because I'd had these ideas in the past that I'd like to do it, but it was all about giving myself the best chance to do what I wanted to do within my career. So I've always been quite a strategic thinker. I suppose this is why I've pulled into this area with my consultancy. But yeah, I suppose it's about building the strongest plan to achieve what you want to achieve, and that's what I was doing with that. So yeah, ideally, when I'd finished university, I wanted to be managing a non-profit, a sort of small to medium-sized non-profit organisation, and these plans, building these strong plans, were part of achieving that goal.
Wow, that's amazing. Now tell us a bit more about your non-profit. What is it about, and what do you do exactly?
Yeah, so that initially, when I'd finished my master's degree, I started this non-profit, and the first one was a youth and community organisation. So it was based in the city where I live, so that's York, and it works with predominantly sort of teenagers and things like this, and it helped them to make the right choices through college and through work and through life, with mentoring. So we had this sort of peer mentoring program and an adult sort of mentoring program. So there was ones where we had the kids sort of who'd come through the experience and wanted to give something back, and mentored other children, young people, and there were adults that were acting as mentors to children and young people as well. And that was what we started off as. And I would say that if you are looking to start a non-profit organisation, to start with something really specific. So you might have all these ideas, and I'm one of those people, and I definitely did. But if you can really scale it down to one simple thing, And just what I like to say is, what you're doing now is for this moment. It's not forever. So it's what's right for now, not forever. So make it really specific, something that goes out to solve a specific need within your community or within a community. So that's what we did, and then we sort of grew, and we started to offer some recreational types of activities and sort of trips and things like that. There were quite a few local people that were interested in having. We didn't have any sort of youth clubs or youth centres or anything like that. So there was a lot of support in terms of volunteering and in terms of expertise and things like this for creating some sort of activities for young people. And that's the other thing I would say, you know, if you do have any, try and work out what your strengths are within your connections or within your community, and use those strengths, because they're going to add to the power that you've got to make a difference. So yeah, that's what we started as, and we went out into lots of different areas eventually, and it exists up until now, really. So I'm not directly involved anymore. I decided it was my time to step away. But yeah, it's still going strong. I founded a couple of different types of non-profit organisations as well. A CIC, one that works with schools and provides PSHE material, so types of interactive videos and things like this, and lots of interactive content, so that the sorry, that's a bit of a tongue twister then. The PSHE subject areas can be quite hard to talk about, so the interactive elements open up all the discussions, and they make it a part of the process that needs to happen to go on to the next section. So yeah, I've actually since then started lots of different non-profit organisations, some that I'm still involved with, and some that didn't really need me anymore. So I thought it was my time to sort of move on and let somebody else take the reins.
That's amazing, because in the way that's in a healthy way of a person to work is actually what you're doing, and that is walking away when you know that another person can actually maintain and make it grow the way your vision you started it. And that is wow. Kate, you're amazing. And tell us now, because you're working as a consultant now, you're actually helping and you're actually supporting those nonprofits. Well, tell us, like, what are you consulting? What is that you go deep and you actually help the nonprofit, please?
Yeah, so I have 3 areas that I tend to help with, and they are governance, because I work with a lot of startups. And it's really important when you have a startup nonprofit that you get the governance right. You know, it's being managed in a way that is appropriate and that it should be managed. And it is, sorry, that is a really important part of it, because, I mean, there's many other factors as well, but you're working with public money a lot of the time, and people are making donations. So you need to sort of have processes in place to make sure that that's being managed properly. So I get a lot of work through startup CICs, mostly because they tend to have a bit more money and a bit more of a business sort of attitude than people who have only worked in non-profits. The other 2 areas that I work in are sort of strategy. I'm sorry, I keep tongue tying myself. I work within strategy, so I would come into an organisation generally when they'd like to reach the next level. So it might be in terms of funding, or it could be in terms of operations. So maybe they've been delivering one project per one funding pot, and they want to expand into a couple of different areas and have these different projects running at different times. So a lot of that is sort of project management, and how you actually keep track of all these things and effectively, you know, keep all the aspects going at the same time. Sometimes it could just be going in to do the monitoring. So people tend to be really good with, I've seen consultations. People that I've worked with in the past tend to be really strong and really experienced with carrying out consultations with the public. They deliver the projects, and they learn from the process, in terms of they remember something that's happened that didn't go very well, and they've got a reason in their minds of why it might not have gone so well. What they don't do is put this in a formal sort of document. So they're not keeping track of, this was the plan, we set these priorities, this is how we delivered it, and afterwards going back and looking how you delivered it, what the outcomes were, and did we meet those priorities? And then going through this whole process of, okay, so we're going to use what we learned in this monitoring part and when we've done our evaluation to plan our next events, and then we know that we are using each of these parts to grow in terms of what we're able to deliver. So yeah, I do a lot of strategy writing, or the evaluation part of the strategic development. And then the other part that I absolutely love, to be honest, it's really good fun, is brand development. So I tend to get involved with either startup organisations or established organisations that are looking to rebrand, and we go through a couple of questionnaires, and ask some really key questions that get right to the point of who they're trying to target, what they're about, why they're doing what they're doing, what's really important to them, what are their values, what are their perceptions of their organisation, and what are other people's perceptions when they look at the branding, and all these different things. When we've got all this information, we go into a workshop. So we bring the whole team together and we look at this picture that's been formed from everybody's results that they're given on the questions, and then we brainstorm, and it's a really creative process where we piece the brand together, or we piece it back together in a way that's consistent between all the team members, and in a way that is what they would want the public to see them as. Because quite often I find that people have their team, and when you go to the different team members and ask them what they think about these questions, this particular question or this question, they come back and you'd be really surprised at the variation that you can get between one person and one working closely with another team member, and what they feel their messages are within their organisation. It's really surprising how much difference you can get. But it's a really creative process. I get to use some of my art skills. So, I mean, at the moment it's virtual because we can't actually have a workshop, but it's still great fun. And we put together a mood board, which is like a collection of all the different parts of the branding, so the logo and some keywords about their values, and lots of sort of shapes and colours and things like this. And it's a nice process, and everybody sort of adds a bit to putting together their brand. So
Wow, that's amazing, Kate. And thank you for detailing to actually share with us what you do and how you help them. Where do people can get hold of you?
So I'm on a couple of social media channels, so LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook as well. I mean, if you looked up Design and Conquer York on Google, then you'd come to the website as well. Any of these channels is fine. So we get a lot of messages through LinkedIn, probably the majority of inquiries. We also get some from some through Instagram, and some through the website. So any's fine. I also take phone calls, quite flexible. I'd prefer a message, a written message, whether it's through one of the social media channels or the website, but absolutely fine. If you want to call, that way you can have a little chat as well. That's absolutely fine.
That's all right. And for everybody else, we'll also put this information on the description. So you don't have to go back to the video again. If you feel like you want to go, that's fine. But there is going to be on the description this information on how to get in contact with Kate. And Kate, now tell us, if today was your last day on this earth, what message would you like to share to the world?
That's a tough one. I think in relation to what we were talking about with studies and things earlier on, I think I would say that quite often it can be only yourself that's holding you back from growing. Don't let yourself hold you back, and any insecurities. And if you know where you want to be, then start working out what you need to do to get there and do it.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And for everybody else, this is amazing, Kate Allen. She's an amazing woman, and do get in touch. Talk to her. Just ask her a question. Like she said, you can just find her in any of the social media. Now, before we leave, Kate, is there anything you want to share with us today?
I suppose I would. Yeah. So in the description, when you come across my organisation, it says, and I use the term helping quite often. I do genuinely mean helping, and I care a lot about non-profit organisations. I care about what they do, and I care about the impact that they have on their client base. If you've got any questions for me, you feel like you need a little bit of support, I don't have, obviously, I can be quite busy, so bear with me, but I'm happy to answer any questions. If you don't have the funding, or you're waiting for funding, but you've got some urgent piece of advice that you need or something like this, get in touch with me, because I'm quite happy to help, just be open and honest. And like I said, I can be limited in my time, but I genuinely mean that. I'm happy to help. So any questions, any different situations, talk to me and we'll go from there.
Thank you so much, Kate. And for everybody else at home, this is Kate Allen. And for I cannot wait. Okay. One more question before we leave. Kate, would you be willing to come back as a guest again?
Definitely. Yes. Thanks, Barke. Definitely.
I would love to invite you back, especially for the new year. I've got something new coming up, so I would also keep you up to date with that one. And for everybody else out there, keep your eyes open, because something is coming, and can't wait for the next guest to show up for next time. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kate.
Brilliant. Thanks, Barke. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.